The Biden administration is mounting a new push to encourage Americans to file their taxes.
Boo!
In order to infuriate Robbie and also to collect the remaining payments from the American Rescue Plan's expanded child tax credit, though infuriating Robbie is the main goal of it.
Yes.
The push is specifically targeting earners whose incomes are so low they might not have traditionally filed. Moreover, Democratic lawmakers on Tuesday said they're, quote, not giving up hope on re-extending the child tax credit, a key provision of President Joe Biden's stalled Build Back Better legislation. Democrats are betting on Senator Joe Manchin's support, but the moderate holdout told reporters on Tuesday that he is, quote, not a part of any organized discussions about the CTC.
After giving remarks urging Americans to file their tax returns yesterday, Vice President Kamala Harris declined to take any questions from the press.
So thank you all for what you have done and will continue to do. Let's keep getting the word out and be well and take care. Thank you.
How will the administration pass the child tax credit when Manchin says BBB is done? Can you give us any updates on the Supreme Court process?
Host of the Bad Faith podcast and former National Press Secretary for the Bernie Sanders presidential campaign, Briahna Joy Gray, joins us now to discuss. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. So what did you make of Kamala ducking out there after her comments, which were not as fun as I love the quote that we should keep doing what we've been doing, and that's I love that one. I've been using it all the time.
Yeah, if there's a contrast between the two parties right now, America's already great. Keep doing what we've been doing with, there's obviously a problem. Make America great again. I mean, those are going to be the choices presented to voters in the fall. And I'm glad elected Democrats are, what was the lead quote, not giving up on the child tax credit and Joe Manchin, because I think a lot of Democratic voters really have given up. We've seen this loosening the football routine from Joe Manchin for a year now, and it's really curious what they think is going to change when Joe Manchin is still out here talking about how he wants there to be work requirements and income caps and all of these barriers to actually fulfilling the promise of the child tax credit that was once, in very recent history, heralded as this amazing Democratic Party agenda that, in fact, halved child poverty. You're not hearing a lot of language like that anymore. I think perhaps because a lot of people know that we're about to double child poverty, and that doesn't look so good on a headline.
Yep, that's the problem. If you have it and then let it expire, then you double it when it expires. And just as a public service announcement, I know it makes Robbie angry, but if you didn't make a whole lot of money, you really should file your taxes this year. I went years early in my life without filing my taxes because I didn't make much money and I just didn't want to do it. And eventually the IRS caught up with me and I was forced to finally file. And when I did, I actually got a refund out of it. It wasn't a ton, but like it was worth the time.
To be clear, people should pay their taxes so they don't go to prison.
There's that too.
You ought not to have to, but you do have to.
But more likely, you're actually going to get money. And this year in particular, if you haven't been filing in the past, then the IRS didn't know that you were entitled to these child tax credits. And so when you file, you might be surprised at the giant check waiting for you, which you better take it because, as Briahna said, doesn't look like there's a whole lot coming your way beyond this.
Yeah, and I think there's a real point of agreement between Ryan, Robbie, and myself. The three of us are all on board with the idea that, look, Robbie, if you don't like taxes for whatever reason, the reality is that there are a lot of problems with structuring these social safety net benefits through a tax program, not to mention the fact that they're incredibly opaque to a lot of voters. I mean, I think that something that gets missed in the political discourse in this country is how many people there are that make so little money that they don't have to file taxes, right? And there's a world that, where your libertarian needs and my socialist needs meet in the middle, where we understand that direct cash payments are not only more effective, used more efficiently, they are also easier for people to understand if you don't have this enormous amount of underuse that we have with our social programs where people simply aren't willing to jump through or able, frankly, to jump through the administrative hoops required to get the things that politicians crow about offering.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with that. I think the endless like tinkering with the system sounds really good to very wonky policy people. A lot of our friends in D.C. Well, what if we made this little change and then this would benefit this group? But like normal people are working, they're busy, they're taking care of their families. They don't have time to follow what Vox.com thinks would be the absolutely optimal hack to the tax system. And maybe it would be good. It would be good for a lot of people, but they don't have time to figure that out. Just if the government is going to take care of people, I agree. Just give them money. Just give them money. That's the way to do it.
And in fact, Briahna, a recent study from Washington University in St. Louis found that the expanded child tax credit did not reduce employment. In fact, the researchers found that families making $50,000 or less per year in income actually saw their employment rate increase by 2.9 percentage points following the CTC expansion.
Yeah, I'm not surprised. Moreover, the number of people who said that they had missed work or didn't work because of childcare issues went down. That's more people turning up at the office than were turning up before because they could actually afford to have someone come and take care of their kids. Ryan, anybody with kids knows that childcare is one of the most expensive costs there are, and it's not titrated based on your income. It's expensive to pay for childcare wherever you live and however much you make. And having this kind of support system and having people be able to have a little relief on the grocery front, on the college education front, on the bill pay front has actually made workers feel more empowered. Another interesting stat, it's more people are identifying as self-employed. More people are doing the job creator, business owner thing that is often so heralded on the right. And yet we have politicians still, like Joe Manchin and the cohort of faceless, unnamed Democrats who are hiding behind Manchin and Sinema, still obstructing these kinds of initiatives. It's going to be a wild fall, Ryan.
Yes.
Well, this week, the Education Department announced CTC payments paid as tax refunds are indeed protected from garnishment from federal debt, including student loans, through May 2022. However, this protection is set to expire once student loan repayments resume on May 1st. Meanwhile, First Lady Jill Biden confirmed that the Biden administration will not be able to deliver on its promise of free community college to Americans, a provision that was a major part of the president's economic agenda. Wow, I bet people are going to be really, really excited in the Democratic coalition to just get this guy another term, huh?
Here's the thing. If I can just have a little bit of a Bernie bro moment, I don't ask for them much, but occasionally I'd like a little bit of an allotment. I remember in 2020 when so many progressives who were so excited about Bernie Sanders, who were excited about Elizabeth Warren, were told, you know what, Biden has a lot of great stuff too. How can you turn up your nose at the idea of 2 years free public education? How can you turn your nose up at the idea of student loan cancellation for all these HBCUs and at least $10,000 for everybody else earning under $125,000 a year who can hop on one foot while citing the Pledge of Allegiance or whatever other metrics that he had
opening a business
to enter there. At least it was something. And we were told, look, Dr. Jill Biden understands education. Dr. Jill Biden is personally invested in this, and this is not going to be a promise that is reneged upon. And here we are. These kinds of kind of almost identitarian efforts to say this person understands your pain because they went through it means absolutely nothing when the chips are down. The ultimate cost of this free not public education, but vocational schools and community colleges, it's something like $45 billion a year, right? We were having this incredible discourse around these much more expensive SALT credits. There's no means testing or any kind of conversation around Trump's $1.7 trillion tax cut, and yet somehow, in the richest country in the history of the world, when it comes down to providing basic services that not only help working people, help the entire country, but making sure that we have a qualified, educated workforce, are thrown out the window. I promise you they're not doing the same thing in the countries that we are so-called competitive with in the rest of the world. And it really just never fails to boggle the mind.
Yeah, and this is a case where kind of structural power overwhelmed the personal story that you're talking about, because as I understand it, once you narrowed down the amount of money that was available for Build Back Better, and then once within that you narrowed down what was available for education, you had two pools. You had Pell Grant money that goes for the big universities and state schools and private schools, and then you had the community college money. Who do senators and members of Congress have really strong relationships with? university presidents. That's just the nature of the structure of our power arrangement in this country. And so the university said, if there's a small amount of money here, we want it, not the community colleges. So guess who doesn't have great relationships in Congress? That's the heads of community colleges.
You're right. No, that's a good point.
Despite the fact that the First Lady has a link there, so she just gets bowled right over.
Well, that certainly reminds me of Joe Biden's link to Penn University. Was it how many hundreds of thousands of dollars do they pay him every year for some sort of
or something? Yeah.
Honorary position? Yeah, that's right. It came up in my radar the other week. It's unconscionable, and yet those same figures will tell you that they're the working man, they're the everyman, they're the one that can relate to the populace. And in fact, arguing for free public education, free community colleges is in fact me doing a kind of classism. The people who are advocating for more educational opportunities for everybody doing a kind of classism because we need to honor the dignity of work. Of course we should honor the dignity of work, but it's contingent on the idea that people have intrinsic dignity, not a bunch of rich people who send their kids to Ivy League schools saying that you shouldn't even have the ability to send your kid to college at all because the money isn't there, because they're funneling it to the same kind of elite institutions that they get personally kickbacks from.
Yeah.
Right.
This was a case where going small was not pragmatic. Going small set yourself up for defeat. But Briahna, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you both.
And we'll have more Rising right after this.